Let's continue our conversation on the order point system, focusing in on the two elements of a simple equation: demand during lead time and safety stock. To reiterate, demand during lead time, as the name would indicate, is the actual demand for a product during the lead time within which we are replenishing that product. So if a lead time, cumulative lead time, is 8 weeks, we need to understand what we think the demand is going to be in week 1, week 2, week 3 as we're heading up to that, completing that 8-week lead time. And if there are any changes there, up or down, how do we accommodate that? So demand during lead time, obviously very important as it relates to the order point system. Safety stock, and we spoke of this a moment ago, but to elaborate just a bit, safety stock is carried to safeguard against supply chain variance. It's additional inventory on top of the normal inventory that we carry. And it's driven by supply chain variance. There could be a variance in forecast between what we predicted was going to be sold and what actually was sold. Orders from customers could be variances there. Certainly lead time variation is a source of concern in a supply chain that would compel a company to carry additional safety stock. So when we're looking at the order point system, getting to the moment where we're depleting inventory for a specific product, down to the point where we have to reorder, it's made up of the demand during that lead time, 8 weeks in our example right now, plus safety stock. An example will help us to illustrate this point a little bit further. So let's have a quick look at a specific order point example. We're looking to get down to a number, a quantity of product that we have on hand. Once we reach that point, we have to reorder. EOQ, as we saw previously, tells us a quantity to order, 1,000 units, 2,000 units, etc. The order point system tells us at what moment in the depletion of our inventory during the lead time plus safety stock, when we get to that point, we have to order. So let's have a look. Demand during lead time in our basic example, that's 200 units per week. It could differ per week. Obviously, this is for illustrative purposes, but the point is the same. The lead time in this example, not 8 weeks, it's 3 weeks, and we have made a determination that based on the variance that we think we can anticipate and probably not anticipate in our supply chain, that we need a safety stock of 300 units. So if we're talking about 3 weeks and 200 units per week in demand, of course, that's 600 plus 300 is 900 units. So whenever we get down to 900 units for this particular product, every product is going to have a different amount. But for this particular product, when we get down to 900 units, it's time to order. And by doing that, we can account for demand during lead time plus safety stock. And again, a quick reiteration of our definitions over here. But we want to reiterate, you have to know the lead time. That's another reason why cumulative lead times are so important, to have knowledge of and to be confident in the lead times, really quite important. Make a previous determination based on variance in the supply chain what our safety stock is, and for every single product that we deal with in our organization, have an order point. So now that we have some further insights into EOQ and order points and demand during lead time and even some admittedly simple examples, let's talk about the order management process. Because going through all of those previous exercises, DRP and everything else that we've talked about, it doesn't mean much if we can't manage orders. So let's look at bullet point number 1. Gross to net exploding, lead time offsetting, order quantities, order point systems, all of that simply puts a company in a position to handle sales orders. As sales orders are received, our firm must enact its order management process. All of the above doesn't mean much if we can't execute in that last mile, if you will. So steps in that process, the order management process, may include order receipt, and acknowledgement. Credit checks on customers, certainly available to promise and allocation. Picking and packing of orders depending on the nature of our product itself, and documentation and shipping. So let's stop and talk a little bit more about these because they sound like pretty easy things to do. Well, in a PowerPoint presentation, they're real easy to talk about. In the real world, when you're receiving hundreds and if not thousands of orders a day in a multinational environment, this becomes very complex. So something as simple as the process through which we as the seller receive orders from our customers and acknowledge back to them that we received an order, you have to be able to repeat that literally thousands and thousands of times a month, if not a day, especially if we're in an e-commerce fulfillment business. I've seen perfectly good relationships with customers go totally sour because it took too long to engage in a credit check on that client. You have a customer that's motivated and at least initially willing to pay, but we can't get back to them because our process for checking a customer's credit status is not what it should be. That's part of order management for sure. Available to promise and allocation. Salespeople in a commercial environment, a business-to-business environment, are often faced with orders and the quality problem of whether or not they have enough product to promise to that customer. A customer calls their salesperson and said, oh, I have a rush shipment. I need 1,000 units of XYZ product. Can you help me out? You have to be able to engage. The salesperson has to be able to engage and get into the system and see, is there available to promise? Is there something that can be done? How is product allocated? That's an exception case example I just gave, but how about the ongoing normal practice of available to promise and allocations? Sometimes companies get in real trouble in this area. Orders are almost good to go. We have to pick and pack, especially in an e-commerce type of scenario. A consumer somewhere in Europe that goes online and buys a smartphone and a bunch of accessories and wireless headset and nice carrying case and what have you, how quickly can that be executed upon, picked and packed and sent out to the customer? That's a complicated process, especially in an e-commerce environment. And then back to this whole idea of documentation and shipping. The quality of documentation that accompanies goods physically, especially in an international environment, how the shipping process is executed, the logistics integration with order management, also vitally important. So all of these things make up that customer experience, if you will, that will impact ultimately how motivated a customer is to come back and buy from us again.